Picture this. You finally hit the magical $1 million mark in your retirement savings. You're probably thinking you've made it, right? Time to buy that yacht, upgrade to first class forever, and maybe even consider hiring someone to tie your shoes for you. Well, hold on to your wallet because what I'm about to tell you might just burst that bubble faster than a cheap pool float at a family barbecue. The harsh reality is that $1 million today isn't what it used to be. Your grandfather might have been able to retire like a king with that amount, but unless you're planning to spend your golden years eating ramen noodles and binge watching free television, you might want to adjust those expectations. My name is Nick, and I help people navigate the often confusing world of personal finance and retirement planning. If you're looking to understand what your money can actually do for you in retirement, make sure to hit that subscribe button and give this video a thumbs up if it helps clear things up. Here's something that might shock you. That $1 million portfolio you've been dreaming about, it's not going to fund the lavish retirement lifestyle you see in those glossy magazine advertisements. In fact, it might barely cover what you'd consider a comfortable middle-class retirement. The question we need to answer today is simple but crucial. Exactly how much income can you realistically expect from a $1 million retirement nest egg? Before we dive into the numbers, let me paint a picture of what most people think retirement looks like with $1 million in the bank. They imagine withdrawing whatever their investments earn each year and living off those gains. Sounds logical, doesn't it? Like, if your portfolio grows by 12% one year, that's a cool $120,000 to spend. Not bad for doing absolutely nothing except owning some stocks and bonds. But here's where this fantasy crashes into reality like a shopping cart hitting a speed bump. The stock market doesn't hand out steady paychecks. One year, you might see your investments soar by 25%, making you feel like Warren Buffett's smarter cousin. The next year, you could watch that same portfolio drop by 10%, leaving you wondering if you should have just stuffed your money under a mattress instead. Let me give you a real example of just how unpredictable this can get. Back in 2018, the market decides stocked to throw investors a curveball, delivering negative returns that left many people staring at their statements in disbelief. If you had been counting on those market gains to fund your retirement, you would have been in for a very unpleasant surprise. Imagine explaining to your spouse that this year's vacation budget just disappeared because the market had a bad mood. Then there's the sneaky villain that nobody likes to talk about, inflation. While you're busy celebrating your $1 million milestone, inflation is quietly working behind the scenes like a pickpocket at a crowded festival. That money loses purchasing power every single year, which means what seems like a fortune today might feel more like pocket change decades down the road. Think about it this way. Remember when a candy bar cost 50 cents? Now that same candy bar probably costs $2 or more. That's inflation doing its dirty work, and it's not going to stop just because you've retired. Your $1 million today will buy significantly less stuff 20 or 30 years from now, even if the number in your account stays exactly the same. This is precisely why financial experts have spent countless hours trying to figure out the sweet spot or keys for retirement withdrawals. How much can you safely take out each year without running the risk of eating cat food in your 80s? The answer isn't as straightforward as you might hope, and it definitely isn't as generous as most people assume. Some financial advisors take the ultra-conservative approach, suggesting you withdraw only 3% of your portfolio each year. With $1 million nest egg, that would give you $30,000 annually to live on. Unless your retirement dreams involve a steady diet of generic cereal and discount store clothing, that might feel a bit tight for most people's taste. On the other end of the spectrum, you'll find advisors who think 5% is perfectly reasonable, especially during periods when the market is performing well. That bumps your annual income up to $50,000, which starts to feel more like actual retirement money rather than just survival funds. But here's where most financial planners land, and it's become something of a golden rule in retirement planning circles. The 4% withdrawal rule has become the standard recommendation for a reason, And understanding why this number exists could be the difference between a comfortable retirement and spending your golden years working as a grocery store greeter. This 4% figure isn't just some random number that someone pulled out of thin air during a boring committee meeting. It's based on extensive research and historical market data that takes into account the ups and downs of both stock and bond markets over multiple decades. The idea is that you can withdraw 4% of your total portfolio value during your first year of retirement, then adjust that amount each subsequent year to account for inflation. So with your $1 million portfolio, you'd start by withdrawing $40,000 in year one. If inflation runs at 3% that year, you'd bump your withdrawal up to about $41,200 in year two, and continue adjusting upward each year to maintain your purchasing power. The beauty of this system is that it's designed to last for 30 years with an extremely low probability of your money running out. Now, before you start planning how to spend that $40,000, there are some important details about this 4% rule that you need to understand. First, this calculation assumes your portfolio is split 50-50 between stocks and bonds. That's actually quite conservative compared to what many investment experts recommend. Some advisors suggest keeping your entire portfolio in growth stocks, arguing that bonds carry their own risks while offering much lower returns. The choice between stocks and bonds becomes increasingly important as you age. Generally speaking, the more stocks you own, the higher your potential returns, but also the greater your risk. Younger retirees might be comfortable with more stock exposure, while those in their 70s or 80s might prefer the stability that bonds can provide, even if it means accepting lower overalls and other returns. Here, many people off guard. That catches that 4% withdrawal rate is specifically crucial detail designed for a 30-year retirement period. If you're planning to retire in your 40s or 50s, which seems to be increasingly popular these days, you might need to be even more conservative with your withdrawals. Nobody wants to celebrate their 90th birthday by realizing they've got 10 years left to live but $0 left to live on. The unpredictability of lifespan adds another layer of complexity to retirement planning that most people prefer not to think about. We'd all love to know exactly how long we'll live so we could budget accordingly, spending our last dollar on our last day. Unfortunately, life doesn't work that way, and planning for the unknown requires careful consideration and probably a bit more caution than we'd prefer. The truth about longevity might surprise you more than finding out your teenage kids actually do know how to load a dishwasher. According to recent data, the average 65-year-old can expect to live another 18 to 20 years. But here's the kicker. That's just an average. Half of those people will live longer, and some significantly longer. You might be planning for a 20-year retirement, only to discover you've got 35 years of golf games and early bird specials ahead of you. This uncertainty is exactly why being conservative with your withdrawal rate makes sense, even if it feels like you're being unnecessarily cautious. Think of it as wearing a seatbelt or keeping jumper cables in your car. You hope you'll never need the extra protection, but you'll be grateful it's there when life throws you a curveball. But let's get back to that $40,000 you can safely withdraw from your $1 million nest egg. For many people, that number feels disappointingly small. After all, $40,000 doesn't exactly scream living the dream in today's economy. A decent new car can cost that much, and don't even get me started on what a week at a nice resort will run you these days. However, before you start feeling too depressed about your retirement prospects, remember that this $40,000 probably isn't your only source of income during retirement. Most people have been paying into Social Security throughout their working years, and that's designed to provide a foundation of retirement income on top of whatever you've managed to save privately. The average Social Security benefit currently sits at around $1,800 per month, or roughly $21,600 per year. Now, your actual benefit might be higher or lower depending on how much you earned during your working years and when you decide to start claiming benefits. If you wait until your full retirement age, you'll get more than if you claim early. Wait even longer until age 70, and your benefits increase even more. Adding that Social Security income to your 4% withdrawal gives you a combined annual income of approximately $61,600. For a married couple where both spouses receive Social Security benefits, you're looking at potentially $83,000 or more per year. Suddenly, that $1 million retirement starts looking a bit more reasonable, doesn't it? Of course, the government isn't going to let you keep all of that money without taking their cut first. Taxes and retirement can be tricky to navigate, and they'll vary significantly depending on what types of accounts hold your $1 million. If your money is sitting in a traditional 401k or IRA, every dollar you withdraw will be taxed as ordinary income, just like the paycheck you used to receive. On the flip side, if you've been smart enough to build up a Roth IRA over the years, those withdrawals come out completely tax-free. It's like getting a permanent discount on everything you buy during retirement. The catch, of course, is that you had to pay taxes on that money before you put it into the Roth account. So you're essentially choosing when to pay the tax man rather than avoiding him entirely. Most retirees end up with a mix of account types, which actually gives you some flexibility in managing your tax burden. You might withdraw some money from tax-free accounts in years when you need extra cash and lean more heavily on taxable accounts in years when your income is lower. It's like having different tools in a toolbox, each one useful for different situations. The state where you choose to spend your retirement years can also have a dramatic impact on how far that money stretches. Some states have no income tax at all, which means more money stays in your pocket. Others tax everything, including your Social Security benefits, which can put a serious dent in your retirement budget. It's worth considering whether a change of scenery might also mean a change in your financial situation. Beyond taxes, your geographic location affects everything from housing costs to healthcare expenses to the price of a decent cup of coffee. That $60,000 retirement income might feel luxurious in certain parts of the country while barely covering basic expenses in others. The cost of living variations across different regions can be absolutely staggering, and smart retirees factor this into their planning. Healthcare costs deserve special mention because they have a nasty habit of increasing faster than general inflation. While Medicare will cover many of your medical expenses, it doesn't cover everything, and the gaps can be expensive to fill. Long-term care, prescription drugs, and dental work can all take significant bites out of your retirement budget, and these expenses tend to increase as you age. This is where having that $1 million cushion becomes particularly valuable. It's not just about funding your daily living expenses, it's about having the financial flexibility to handle unexpected costs without panicking. Whether it's a major home repair, helping out a family member in financial distress, or dealing with a health issue that requires expensive treatment, having substantial savings provides peace of mind that goes beyond simple dollars and cents. The psychological aspect of retirement finances is often overlooked, but incredibly important. There's a significant difference between having enough money to survive of security effects and having enough money to feel what should be the most relaxed quality to your relationships. Everything from your sleep to your overall happiness during years secure, that feeling of your life. Many financial retirement income in terms of replacement ratio experts suggest thinking about rather than absolute dollars. The general rule of thumb is that you'll need roughly 70 to 80% of your pre-retirement income to maintain your standard of living. If you were earning $75,000 per year before retirement, you'd want to aim for somewhere between $52,000 and $60,000 in annual retirement income. Using this framework, $1 million combined with Social Security benefits might be perfectly adequate for someone who is earning a middle-class income during their working years. However, if you were accustomed to a six-figure lifestyle with expensive hobbies, frequent travel, and premium everything, you might find retirement requires some significant lifestyle adjustments. The timing of when you retire also plays a crucial role in how far your money will stretch. Retiring at 62 means your money needs to last potentially 40 years or more, which requires a much more conservative approach than retiring at 67. Early retirees often need to plan for lower withdrawal rates and might need to consider additional income sources like part-time work or rental properties. Speaking of rental properties, many retirees find that diversifying beyond traditional stocks and bonds can provide additional income streams that help stretch their retirement dollars. Real estate, dividend-paying stocks, or even small business investments can all contribute to your retirement income, though they also come with their own risks and management requirements. The reality is that most people approaching retirement have never actually sat down and calculated what their money will realistically provide. They've got this vague notion that $1 million equals financial freedom, kind of like how people assume that expensive wine automatically tastes better than the bottle with a screw-on cap. Sometimes the assumptions we make about money are just as questionable as our taste in beverages. Let's talk about something that makes many financial advisors break out in a cold sweat: sequence of returns risk. This fancy term describes what happens when you get unlucky with market timing early in your retirement. Imagine you retire right before a major market crash like what happened in 2008. Not only are your investments losing value, but you're also withdrawing money to live on, which means you're selling assets at the worst possible time. It's like being forced to sell your house during a hurricane while the roof is leaking and the basement is flooded. You're not exactly in a position to negotiate the best price. This double whammy of market losses plus ongoing withdrawals can seriously damage your portfolio's long-term prospects, even if the market eventually recovers. This is why many retirees keep what's called a cash buffer, essentially several years' worth of living expenses sitting in boring savings accounts or money market funds. Yes, this money earns practically nothing, but it provides a crucial safety net during market downturns. Instead of selling your investments when they're down, you can live off your cash buffer until markets recover. It's like keeping an umbrella in your car even though it's sunny outside. Now, here's where things get interesting from a tax perspective. That $1 million portfolio isn't just sitting there looking pretty, it's constantly generating taxable events that can catch unprepared retirees off guard. Dividend payments, interest income, and any gains from rebalancing your portfolio all create tax obligations, even if you're not actively withdrawing money for living expenses. This is particularly relevant if you're one of those high achievers who manage to accumulate significant wealth in taxable brokerage accounts rather than just retirement accounts. Every year, you'll receive tax forms that look like they were designed by someone who enjoys making people cry. The complexity can be overwhelming, which is why many wealthy retires end up paying substantial fees to tax professionals just to figure out what they owe. But let's get practical about what $60,000 in annual retirement income actually buys you in today's world. If you're planning to stay in the same area where you worked, you might discover that your housing costs alone consume a significant portion of that budget. Property taxes have a nasty habit of increasing over time, and home maintenance costs don't magically disappear just because you're no longer earning a paycheck. Transportation costs present another interesting challenge for retirees. While you might not need to commute to work anymore, you're probably not ready to give up your car entirely. Vehicle expenses, insurance, and the inevitable repairs that come with aging cars can easily consume several $1,000s per year. And if you're planning to travel during retirement, which most people are, transportation costs might actually increase rather than decrease. Food expenses in retirement often surprise people in both directions. Some retirees find they spend less because they're not buying lunch every day or grabbing expensive coffee on their way to work. Others discover that having more time to cook elaborate meals or dine out with friends actually increases their food budget. The key is being realistic about your actual eating habits rather than assuming retirement will magically transform you into someone who meal plans and clips coupons. Healthcare premiums and out-of-pocket costs deserve special attention because they can vary dramatically based on your specific situation. Medicare. Part B premiums are income-based, which means higher income retirees pay more. If your retirement income pushes you into higher income brackets, you might face surcharges that can add hundreds of dollars per month to your healthcare costs. Long-term care insurance is another expense that many people overlook during retirement planning. The average cost of nursing home care now exceeds $100,000 per year in many areas, and Medicare provides very limited coverage for extended care needs. Even assisted living facilities can cost several $1,000s per month, which can quickly exhaust retirement savings if you need care for several years. So there you have it, folks. $1 million in retirement will give you roughly $40,000 to $60,000 annually to work with, assuming you add Social Security into the mix. It's not exactly yacht money, but it's not cat food money either. The key is managing your expectations and planning accordingly, because retirement surprises are about as welcome as finding out your dentist has expensive hobbies. Start planning now, stay realistic about what your money can actually do, and remember that a comfortable retirement is still absolutely achievable with the right strategy.